to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
This is what Reagan later meant by "we are a shining city on a hill." Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas. My name is Kyle, and this is the That Loud Friday Night Show. And guys, you know what? I got a really good show for you today. Really good, really good. Can't wait to get into it. May have a guest, and so if that happens, that'd be awesome. So I won't say anything yet, but this person, we've had her on the show before, and hopefully she can get on. I'll just send her a message here. And so this is going to be the Christmas show, more or less. We probably do a recap after the holiday, basically wrapping up the year. But we shall see about that. But so I want to just first welcome a new member who I just saw today. And I have them here below. You see them scrolling at the bottom here. And so I want to thank this person coming on VIP sponsor. These people right here are the ones that pretty much make it so that I want to continue doing this. Zilly Head is a new member. H. Shannon, That's So Kyle Life, and I. Garcia. All those were within the past month or so. And the other ones here have been here for a long time. Big supporters of the channel. And again, just allowing us to do what we do. I'm going to put on some Christmas music if you guys can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. It may get annoying. If it gets annoying, I will turn it off. I'm just going to turn it down real low. And as we get into more stuff, I'll turn it off completely, potentially. But it may get on my nerves as I'm hearing it in my headphones. So this whole year has really gone really, really quickly. And it's just been a really crazy year for many different things. We've covered, obviously, dealing with Trump and the election and Biden and immigration or lack thereof in terms of legal. And so for me, it's one of those kind of years where it's almost like detoxing off of 2021 and 2020. And I see we have our guest here, Rebekah, and I'm going to bring her on when she's ready. She's just getting on. I'm gonna let her tell you guys everything that's going on with her. We had her on before. Her name is Rebekah, and I may pronounce her name wrong at the end here. I'm gonna let her pronounce her last name for you if I won't say it wrong. But this is a person we had on the show probably about 4 years ago, and she is an artist. She's a singer, and I'll let her tell you her story. But this is probably my favorite interview that I've ever done. And not trying to brag, but I've interviewed some pretty cool people who are known to everybody. But in terms of having someone on the show, connecting, understanding what she was trying to do with her life and her spirituality and just everything about that, and just the emerging society that was coming. This is pre-COVID. We didn't know what was coming down the line, but we knew something was going to happen. And so, but she was geared and prepared for that. So, if you want to give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go, Rebekah, you ready to go? You don't mind? Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to bring her on right now. This is Rebekah, and I'm going to let her introduce herself to you. And she's got an exciting announcement that we want to talk about and kind of brag about right now. So let's bring her on.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
1 second. Sorry.
No problem.
Can you take? Okay.
I can.
I'm doing very well. The baby is crying, but my husband's going to take care of it. So
no problem. It's the time of season. Yes. Is he ready for Christmas?
The babies?
Yeah.
My husband? Well, I still have Christmas shopping left to do. So they'll be ready. My son is getting baptized tomorrow. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
What time?
At like 9:45, 10.
Okay, so yeah, it's late now. Right now, where are you on? What time zone are you on? I'm on Eastern Standard.
It's 10 o'clock here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's fine.
You can stay as long as you want, but I was gonna let you kick it off because I want to get you interrupt your life there. But you
Oh
do have
no.
something going on, an announcement, something you've been doing. You, you mind telling the audience your name and what you're doing and what your announcement is?
Yes, and thank you so much for having me on. Um, I just want to say that first, and I love everything that you're doing. It's awesome. Um, so my name is Rebekah. My middle name and stage name is Faidia, Rebekah Faidia. I just released my cover of Silent Night, and you can find that on all digital distribution. I do have a small little EP coming out. It might come out Christmas Day. It might.
Okay, she dropped off there. It could be because of the cell phone coverage. So Rebekah Faidia, what she was saying is that she has a extended play on Spotify for Silent Night. I got a chance to hear the sample. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to hear the entire version of it because you have to have a certain level. But I will get that purchased as well, and I'm gonna buy her LP when it comes out. But her first album is just absolutely phenomenal. The talent level there is just off the charts. And I just want to thank her so much for coming on. Again, probably it's because the cell phone coverage and so forth that probably just gonna not allow her to come on. But I'm gonna just drop her off here, and if she stays on and comes back on, I'll bring her back. But in this particular episode, guys, I have something pretty cool. I was gonna talk about a little bit more lighthearted, dealing with primarily with movies, because one thing I love is movies, and particularly Christmas movies, and particularly Christmas movies before 2020, before things went totally crazy and woke. And so, what I have for you guys, I'm gonna give you a quick teaser here. Is I have a game that I've set up, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually have 3 questions about 3 different movies and about what these movies um if made today, what would be the criticisms about them? It's gonna be pretty funny. But anyway, we have Rebekah back, and we'll bring her back on, and let's hear what she has to say. Okay, welcome back.
Hi. So my EP, due to limited resources and time this year, it might be coming out Christmas Day. It might even come out the day after Christmas. But if you are aware of Orthodox, Catholic old school teachings, Christmas starts on Christmas Day and it goes for, like 12, 13 days, like the song, the 12th Day of Christmas. So you can listen to my album, my EP, after Christmas Day. And that's actually something that I really want the culture to shift in. I want people to celebrate Christmas. Even though I'm like pro capitalism, people celebrate Christmas on capitalism's terms. And that kind of annoys me because when the stores can't make a profit, people think that Christmas is over because they're not buying presents anymore. But Christmas is longer than that, and it's just a time to, reflect on Jesus's birth, and that is not just one day. And so, yeah, so if you want to celebrate Christmas the way that, Orthodox churches and Catholic churches do, then you can listen to my EP, the rest of it, which comes out next week.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I heard the clip was incredibly beautiful. Right. Christmas is celebrated mainly in 3 days. On December 6th, I think that's the birth date of Saint Nick, and then 25th, and
Yeah.
um,
It used to be celebrated much longer, like 2 weeks.
Yep.
And it's just, it's like now people go after, with commercialism, and that's not what Christmas is about, as we all know.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a book called, actually, a series of books. One's called The Autobiography of Santa Claus. It's by Jeff Gwynne. And the second one is called How Mrs. Claus Saved Christmas. And the second one is basically dealing with the Puritans in England and how they were trying to suppress and trying to condense or actually get rid of Christmas because it was a pagan holiday at the time. But then the third one is called the Great Santa Chase. I'm sorry, the Great Santa Search, and it's dealing with what you were talking about, the his story of Christmas and how it was commercialized to the point
Yeah.
where it's like it's obnoxious. Going into basically with the Charlie Brown episode, when Linus was like, not Linus, but Charlie Brown was frustrated. He said, "Hey, does anyone know what Christmas is all about?"
Yeah. I know it's amazing, and I'm not I'm not anti gifts, obviously. I think that you can it's fun, and I love all these fun things, but I do it it's just lost its meaning, and we need to get back to it, because I think the world needs that now more than ever.
Yep.
So I do think we are living in the end times. I do think we're close to Jesus.
Yeah. You got cut off, but I think you said we're close to Jesus' return, and I would absolutely agree with you. I mean, if you look at what's going on, people think what's wrong is right, and what's right is wrong, and that's something that the Bible talks about toward the end days. So, can you hear me? I think your mic's out. Okay. Well, I think I can't hear your mic yet. We can't hear you. If you can hear us, that's great. But what she was saying essentially is that's absolutely true. That Christmas needs to be looked at in the way that it's supposed to be, because this world, way it is now, just totally is loss of any kind of focus or any kind of direction. We have no focus, no center. And I watched the video from Charlie Kirk today. Actually, he was actually talking about a person who was a extreme leftist who essentially had a sense of morality based on his own thinking and his own intentions. In other words, it's relative moralism. So there is no absolute moralism. And so Charlie was trying to tell this guy, look, so how do you determine what's right and wrong? And the guy was saying, well, I determine what's right or wrong. And he goes on to other things too. And it was a really interesting discussion. It went on for about 16 minutes. And I respect the guy for what he was saying. But the problem is, and what Rebekah was saying, is that this world is lost of focus. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's right and wrong, many of us. And when we have something like Christmas, which has been pigeonholed into one day, they feel that it's just that commercialism. But celebrating it for the purpose of Christ and any religious tones that you have and that go along with that, outside of Kwanzaa, I'm not doing Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is something that I will do something about on later. But the focus is on the birth of Christ and the Redeemer and all of that. And I think that's ultimately so important today for people to be to know about, essentially. All right, so let's go in the comment section here, see if there's anyone's talking here. No one's talking in the comments. If you guys want to comment, put a comment into the comments there, and I will put them on the screen. If you don't want me to put them on the screen, I won't. And we'll talk about that. I do want to get to this game show that I have that's pretty funny. I may do one round now, one round in the middle, and one round later. But essentially what I did was I went and I took some questions and I went out to Chat GPT, and I basically said, look, guys, I put it in a film critic persona. So essentially it had the brains of a film critic. And I said, if you take a movie like It's a Wonderful Life, give me 10 things as to why that movie, if it made today, would be considered politically incorrect and couldn't get made and could get canceled. And so it gave me all these answers. And I said, okay, well, give me the same thing, but I want specific scenes of your points. And it did. And so I have it here. So I'm going to actually go through this. And if there's enough people on and you want to participate, I'll put the question up there and then I'll give you the sources where it came from. And then you can just shoot them off in the chat. And as they come up, I will reveal them like in Family Field. Family Feud to see if we can get them all. But so it's 3 rounds, and I do basically 3 movies. The first movie is going to be the first movie is probably going to be A Christmas Story, and then we'll do that, and we'll see. But I think it's really interesting, and it just shows you where we are now in society, where everything is offensive. Everything is offensive. D.D. Sarson asked me, "Do I think Kwanzaa is wrong?" Yes, I do, and really, just for full transparency, I celebrated Kwanzaa with much fervor in the 90s. And I think it's wrong on 2 basic levels. The first level, I think it's wrong on the guy who did it was a guy named Karenge, is a convicted felon. I mean, he did some really, really bad things. If I say him here, this probably get demonetized. Not that it'll probably get demonetized anyway, but it's just no point in saying what he had to say. But he was a very, very abusive person. He was a Marxist, a communist. He had every desire to tear down the fabric of Western civilization. And so he came up with this concept of Kwanzaa, which is essentially, I believe it's 8 days that follow directly after Christmas. And every day has its own name to it, like Nia, Kuja Chakalia, Imani, and they mean these things, but they're all tied to socialist practices and principles of paganism, and goes counter to Western civilization. That's the second reason. So the first reason, him as a person, the origin, the creator of it is just a bad person. And then the actual fundamental tenets of the particular holiday is also based in secular humanism, which I'm not all about. I will say some things though. There are some redeeming qualities of Kwanzaa that I will say that's not 100% bad. For instance, they'll say like you give your kids things that are handmade or educational, which I think is cool. But and there are other things too, though, are in it just don't jive with Christianity and Western civilization in general. It just ties into socialism, which I don't really adhere to. But if you guys have a better take on that, let me know. I'd be curious. I was going to do something on Kwanzaa, but I just hadn't get around to it yet. So we'll do that. So let me actually just get started here. And by the way, if you guys are just watching, we had Rebekah Faidia, who's on here, who has a release coming out, a Christmas release. I think it's going to come out a day after Christmas, the 26th, somewhere in there. And I'll leave a link in the description here. It's on Spotify. You can check it out. And she's going to have an extended play release as well with other songs for Christmas. So you can enjoy those during the holiday season as it goes on until to the 6th of January. So I'll have that for you. And so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this actual Trivia Maker deal, this app I have. And I'm going to actually go on the first question here and just see what you guys think about this. So the first round is going to be, what are the top 10 things in the movie A Christmas Story that would be considered not politically correct by 2023 standards? And if you're not familiar with the movie A Christmas Story, it's a movie starring Peter Billingsley. It came out in the 80s, essentially about a kid who wanted to get a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. And because of his safety nature, his mom didn't want him to have it because he might shoot his eye out. So he goes out and tries whatever he can do to get this gun, this BB gun, for Christmas. And to me, it's just a classic. And so here's what, and I'm giving the sources here so you guys can know where it's coming from. The sources for this particular line of questioning is, all right, it's going to be Screen Rant, IDMB, Quora, and the article is, should the movie A Christmas Story be edited and removed? Should be canceled, essentially. YouTube, a video called Ralphie Beats the Bully Scene. Kansas.com, 12 fun trivia tidbits about Christmas Story. And this news station, WKYC, .com, A Christmas Story celebrates 35 years, everything you need to know about the movie. So that's the sources for this particular questions. I didn't make it up, but that's where it comes from. So I'm going to put this up on the screen here. And if anyone can come up with some ideas of these 8, what do you guys think, what would be the first one, or any of these for that matter? Again, it would be, what are the top, in this case, 8 things in the movie A Christmas Story that would be considered not politically correct by today's 2023 standards? I'll leave it there until I hear something. If I don't, I'll just start revealing them as we go forward. So one thing I will say this, guys, is that I'm probably embarrassed to even say this, but I've probably watched, I've probably watched close to 50 movies this year for Christmas that are brand new films I had never seen. Now, that may seem excessive, but it is. I started this literally back probably in August. And part of that is because I really support a station called Great American Family Channel. It's a channel that was formed a few years back because Hallmark Channel was getting totally woke. They were getting away from their principles of decency. And so they broke away. One of the leaders of that company broke away. He brought a bunch of talent over to GAC, or they call it Great American Christmas or Great American Family. They changed the name all over the place. But the fact is, they have content every year that is counterbalancing to Lifetime, counterbalanced to Hallmark, where it's just straight family values. You can watch with your kids. You don't have to worry about covering their ears, their eyes. It's not, it's none of it is woke. And in many cases, they pray in the movie. They also talk about America and just basic stuff that you want to talk about and see in a movie, especially around Christmas time. So I don't have any responses yet. So I'm going to give the number 8 response as to the top 8 things A Christmas Story would be considered not politically correct by today's standards. And that first one is going to be mockery of physical appearance and parental intimidation. And so I'm going to read what it has here. So in the movie A Christmas Story, the portrayal of Ralphie's father was an intimidating figure, particularly in scenes of anger, might be seen as normalizing harsh parenting. Now, look, I come from an era where dads were dads. They were man's or men's men, and they didn't take any stuff from anybody. But if you watch the movie, yes, the dad was pretty stern. Yes, he was. He cussed and he yelled and screamed. But did he provide for his family? Did he love his wife? Did he love his kids? He did. He just did it in a way that men that I grew up did. In fact, and I don't want to be nothing against my father, but my dad was very much a type A person, or is a type A person. But this guy showed a lot more affection than many dads would, given the fact of how he was in the film. So I think that's a little bit ridiculous here. And it just shows you that they're getting mad because a father is intimidating, but he's a dad. He's dealing with 2 sons. There's no daughters in there. I mean, these little boys. He's got to raise men. So I don't see a problem there. The second part is this is actually number 9 and 10. The second part of that is mockery of physical appearance. And they're referring to the teasing and mockery of certain characters based on their physical appearance, like glasses or clothing, could be seen as promoting body shaming. Well, that's what kids do. If you watch South Park, that's what kids do. Kids do that. That's reality. And I don't know what you can do about that. I mean, it is what it is. You have to get a tougher skin. Like Candace Owens said, get you a helmet. Let me see. D.D. Sarson says a child even owning a BB gun today, absolutely. What tell you what? That's you know what? That's going to be number one. Obsession with guns. That is the right answer. That's absolutely the right answer. And let me jump over to that answer here. So, obsession with guns, number one. Ralphie's fervent desire for Red Ryder BB gun, a storyline that might be seen as promoting gun culture to children. Oh my gosh, that is horrible. How could you promote gun culture to kids? You know what? I'm old enough to know that when I went to school, kids had rifles, shotguns in their car. They would leave class and they would go hunting at the end of the school day, and no one ever got shot, got hurt in school ever. And so, it goes down to something a little bit different, you know, between that. So, and also gun culture is something that made this country what it is. Gun culture, if you really want to come down to it, it helped preserve freedom. It absolutely freed the slaves. You don't free slaves without guns. So, and you don't keep slaves free without guns. You don't have an Reconstruction period where the KKK is coming up and there's other entities coming in and trying to shut down families and move people off of farms, whatever. You can't protect that without guns. And so that's one thing that the left will probably never ever get. But yet they're the ones who have armed security wherever they go. But it's the rules for them, not for us. So let's go to number 7 here. That's going to be here. Oops, sorry, I did 2 of them. So let's do number 6. Depiction of punishment. So the punishment here they're talking about is Kevin is often bullied and verbally abused by his siblings and even some adults, which is presented in a comedic context. So what? And generated insults. Where is that? Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong guy. That's the wrong particular. So I got the wrong one. Punishment. Let's go back to that. The scene where Ralphie is forced to eat soap after swearing could be viewed as inappropriate method of child discipline. Probably so, but does it work? I know when we did it in school, I've had that happen to me as well. And yeah, it worked on me. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have to do that. So there is that. Now here's another one. Number 7, gendered insults. The use of gendered insults, such as calling someone a crybaby, crybaby, reflects a less sensitive approach to gender. Guys, I'm telling you right now, and gals, I did not make this up. That is on there. This is from Quora, YouTube, Kansas.com, WKYC, and Screen Rant. So I can't even begin to start by that. Crybaby. Are you serious? And we wonder why. And we wonder why comedy is garbage now. Nothing can be made without making someone offended. Let's see here. The same slave offspring used. Yeah, I guess. But they're definitely doing it now, especially if you look at Chicago. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what that means. No, it didn't. Oh, you're talking about this guy. I see. Okay. I don't know what cannot stop means. That doesn't seem to be a sentence there. Them same slave offspring used them gun on each other. Okay, whatever that means. All right, let's go to number 5. Racial stereotypes. Let's see, what's that? Oh, well, racial stereotypes. Which one was that? Okay, so the scene in the Chinese restaurant with the staff singing Christmas carols is often criticized for perpetuating racial stereotypes and culture insensitivity. Okay, I'll leave that there. I can see that, but at the same time, look, guys, it's comedy, and stereotypes are based on truths, right? Are based on generalizations, and that's where the comedy comes from. Otherwise, you can't have comedy. You just can't do it. Use of profanity by children. Yeah, that's it's also pretty funny. Pretty funny. Um, Here we have here stereotypical portrayal of women. Now this one here I found was pretty kind of weird too. Here it says here the women in the film, such as Ralphie's mother, are depicted in traditional domestic roles, which might be viewed as perpetuating outdated gender stereotypes. Are you kidding me? So if you want to be a stay-at-home mom and you want to take care of your kids and you value your kids over your career or any kind of money, all of a sudden that is I'm assuming they're saying that that's bad. But if you want to say that you want to identify as a woman, then you also have to be able to identify with a stay-at-home woman as well. I wonder if that's a thing. I wonder if people who identifies women who are stay-at-home women. That'd be a good question to find out. And number 2 here, bullying scenes. Again, I would say get a helmet, be tougher. Here it says here, Ralphie's fight with the bully, Scott Farkas, is portrayed in a way that might be seen as glorifying violence as a means to resolve conflict. No, well, I mean, it goes back to self-defense. So he hit him with a snowball, and he basically was self-defense. Now, did he go over the top with it? Maybe, but did his mother condone it? No. Was he sorry he did it? Yes, he was crying the entire night. And so there are repercussions for those actions. One thing about movies is, you can show bad things, but the question becomes, is there a recourse for those bad things? And when we get into the movie, It's Wonderful Life, I'm going to talk about something in that movie that was very controversial when that came out, if I can remember. That was very controversial on the same kind of line here. And so, I think to really look at movies and to have them fall into a specific category for every category, then you can't really have a movie. What you're having is a movie that's unrealistic, that's all message, it's all narrative, it's no entertainment. And if people want to actually do that, they can save their $9 and go watch TV. They can watch the news. And so that's what people want to do. They want to go to the theater and watch television after a hard day work, and they actually want to not be around that and see that. And so that is what these leftists seem to fail to get. So I want to talk about a movie here. I want to talk about Die Hard. I saw Die Hard again a few days ago, and that movie there was a movie that I was going to actually use as a test case for films that can't be shown today, for various things about the movie and about why it would be considered politically incorrect. But that film has so many of those things in there, and because it's a rated R film, I didn't want to do that because whatever. But I'm going to talk about it because Die Hard, the more I see the movie, the more I actually like it, and the more I think it is a movie classic in many different ways. And I think it's a movie classic for the core principle that John McClane, his whole motivation in the entire movie was to get back with his wife. That's the whole film. It just so happens that these terrorists are getting in the way. And he has to beat the terrorists to actually save his wife and his life and everything else. And of course, there's some other underpinnings there. And so when the movie, and if you guys have seen Die Hard, if you hadn't seen it, I'm going to spoil the movie. So I hope you guys have seen it. If you haven't seen it, I would just cover your ears or whatever. But the movie came out in 1988, so it's been out a while, but it's still a really, really good movie. But the film starts off with John McClane. He's a New York police officer. He's on his way to California to see his wife for Christmas. They're still married, but they're estranged because they have two careers. His wife is a successful, I'm not sure she's a marketing executive in this Japanese company, Nakatomi company in LA. And so they're 3,000 miles apart. So he's flying into New York and he gets to LA and he sees his wife. And when you first see his wife, this is what I think was so cool about the film. He looked at her like, look, I missed you. I love you. Let's work this thing out. She looked back at him as, I missed you. I love you. Let's work this thing out. But then he gets into an argument with her and then he goes off to the corner, takes the shoes off. And then at that point in time, the whole movie kicks off because the terrorists start to wreak havoc. And so from that point in time, he is trying his best to save his wife. Not only his wife, also save his marriage at the same time. And I think that's one of the key reasons why Die Hard really would be shunned today, is because of that strong nucleus of them trying to get together, and that they actually do get together, and that they do actually make it work, despite the fact that they have these careers that are so different and so far apart. And then you have the other storyline of the detective, the beat cop, who ended up hurting someone by accident, and then he can't draw his weapon anymore. So he's basically just a beat cop now. And so he is actually trying his best to redeem himself in some way possible, but his career's kind of gone off the rails. But another thing about the film is that it just shows how the cops and the FBI and the 911 service, how they're just unreliable, and how everyone lets him down, how government totally lets down the main hero, and it's all up to him to beat the terrorists and save the day. And there's a lot of things in there that would be contrived as, okay, it's very sexist. You know, there's a scene where he's hits his hand on a poster. It's very, it's very, very R-rated. And so he's a man's man, but he's vulnerable in many ways too. But he's able to take all that together into a character that allows him to be both. He can be a hero, super duper hero. He can be vulnerable. He can be loving, and he can be a comedic. And that kind of character is something that we don't see anymore in movies. We don't see the movies where we have the hero's story, where the character themselves has flaws, and you identify yourself with those flaws. And in doing so, you say, oh, wow, he's like me. He has these flaws. He's overcoming these flaws. And so I identify, and this movie becomes more endearing to me and more enjoyable and make me want to watch it. What we're seeing now is identity. We're seeing a hero who checks several boxes, and that person can do no wrong. She knows everything, can do anything, has no flaws, because it's all about narrative. They have to push this agenda, and then the movie sucks because there's no conflict. There's no drama, because they're going to come out of it scot-free because of the way they're building this character. And so it's characters who have these flaws, who have these desires that may not be perfect, but they fight through them, allow us to see that. Take a movie like Aladdin, where Aladdin, had a problem telling the truth. Okay. And so that was his flaw in that film. He overcame that. But when you make a person with no flaws, it makes it very difficult for us to like the movie. All right, so let's go over to the next round here. I'm gonna pull it up here. This is round 2, and this question is: what are the top 10 things in the movie It's a Wonderful Life that would be considered not politically correct? Now, see, I would disagree. I would say Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. There's about 40 or 50 different references. There's about there's 4 or 5 Christmas songs in there, ending in the beginning. There's snow at the end. The director himself said it was. Bruce Willis said it wasn't. But it is. But it comes down to your definition of what a Christmas movie is. I would say It's a Wonderful Life is not a Christmas movie because really the entire movie has nothing to do with Christmas at all. Christmas only comes out until the last scene of the film. So I would say Die Hard is more of a Christmas movie than even It's a Wonderful Life. But I would say It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie because of the criteria that I put up with when I did my review of Christmas movies. I have a whole checklist of what it makes a Christmas movie, what doesn't, quantifiably. And I can go over that list at some point in time. But people say Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. It just comes down to the definition of what a Christmas movie is. And you have to first identify what that is. Once you do that, then you can have a discussion. Personally, in my definition, it's definitely one. 100%. So here we have here. Okay, so let's go to this. Oops, sorry. Well, I did the first one. All right, so this is It's Wonderful Life, and this here is number 8. Misogynistic behavior. It says here there are instances of patronizing or dismissive behavior towards female characters, especially in George's interactions with Violet and other women in the town. For those of you who haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, it's a film about George Bailey. He is a guy who's living in a town, and his brother goes off into the war, and he never gets a chance to ever get away and travel the world. He keep getting brought back to his father's savings and loan company. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to go live his life and travel and do this stuff. He's never able to do that, and he feels like he's a failure. And so at the end of the movie, I won't spoil it, but that's essentially what it is. He tries to do something, and then he gets a chance to relive his life in a way that he was never born. And it's a really, really powerful film. And it's a film that really has a lot of tropes that have been done over and over and over again, like a movie called The Family Man with Nicolas Cage. That's one. And several others have done this sort of thing too, where you can live your life as if you never existed. What would the world be like? And what is your impact on the world for you not being around? So let's see here. Number 7 here, depiction of mental institutions. I don't even remember that part of it here. It says here, the mention of mental institutions and their portrayal could be seen as outdated and stigmatizing. Well, how about the question, what is a woman? And people not being able to answer that question. What would the I would ask that question there, because there are people who don't know what the answer is, and I would question their mental stability as well. So I'm not sure things are getting better. I think the way we're handling mental institutions and mental health in this country is obviously a failure. It's obviously a failure, and that needs to be worked on. We definitely dropped the ball there. Number 6 is going to be alcoholic consumption, the depiction of alcohol use, especially in times of stress, without addressing potential consequences. Well, I don't know. There's a scene at a bar. Come on, man. I mean, this isn't like that film. Was it what? It was a film where an alcoholic. I forget the name of the film. It's a black and white film. It's a noir film. I think I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, that dealt with the dark side of alcoholism. But in this movie, they're just at a bar. I mean, give me a break. That's really ridiculous. That's really stretching it. Number 5, lack of female agency. I have no idea what that means. No, that's not right. Is that right? Stereotyping of bankers. Oh, I got that. Okay, that's number 4 is age. Okay, so this one in particular, stereotyping of bankers, where Mr. Potter, the banker, is portrayed as a heartless, greedy villain, which could be seen as a stereotype. Only the woke would actually try and defend a banker. And economic class depiction, the film's portrayal of poverty and the working class, especially in the alternate reality, could be seen as overly simplistic or patronizing. Man, these guys are really stretching. I mean, this is and by the way, the sources for this, guys, if you want to know the source for this is Quora. It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, a right-wing movie, ? That's the name of the article. Popular Studies, WordPress.com, everything wrong with It's a Wonderful Life. Vox.com, of course, that's a conservative bastion of, I'm just kidding, it's really leftist. It's a Wonderful Life is one of the best movies America has, whatever it says here on the title. LA Times, Daily Mail, and VogelindView.com. So, and this article is called Wonder and Cruelty on Ontological War in It's a Wonderful Life. These people are getting paid too much to do nothing. They should get real jobs. But anyway, I want to talk about the Harry. I want to talk about the Potter, not the Harry, the Potter, Mr. Potter. Mr. Potter was the villain in this movie. And what I was going to say earlier is that what was controversial at the time, and this is a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but Mr. Potter being the bad guy did something bad. He stole some money, caused George Bailey to basically try and kill himself because he was depressed. He didn't know a way out of it. But at the end of the movie, Mr. Potter had nothing happen to him. He got off scot-free. There was no admonishment. No one knew that he stole it. There was no repercussion at all. And when that movie first came out, they thought that was something that needed to be cut out or that needed to be fixed, because that was part of the code in Hollywood back then, was that if you do something bad, there needs to be repercussions for that. And so that was what I was going to say earlier. And that would have been the point to the other thing they were talking about with the alcoholism and the other point that they made before. But again, it's very nitpicky. It's not a major part of the movie. It's just a plot point to advance the story that George Bailey really does have a wonderful life. He loves his family. And regardless if he's going to jail or not, it's still better him being alive in jail with his family, loving him, than to take his own life. And that's really the point of the story. And the fact that he affected everyone else's life around him, that they were able to come back and at the end of the day help him when he was in trouble. That's the beautiful picture. Okay, so let's go to number 4 here. Lack of female agency and treatment of disabilities. George's brother Harry hearing loss caused by saving George's life might be seen as a sacrificial disability trope. Okay, let me read that again. George's brother Harry's hearing loss caused by saving George's life might be seen as a sacrificial disability trope. No. What it is it's an indicator that his life was different. Once he couldn't hear, he knew that he was in the real reality. When he could hear, he knew he was in the alternate reality. So it was that. Not same thing with the rose petals in his pocket that his daughter gave him, just so he could, and him getting punched in the mouth. So certain things about him, his ear, the rose petals or the flowers in his pocket, and the bleeding lip, whatever, all of that let him know that he was in the right or wrong reality. That's all that was. But also, on top of that, the hearing loss, it also points to the fact that he saved his brother's life, who went on to become a Congressional Medal of Honor winner. So there's a double entendre there as well. So these people really have no idea anything about movie making at all. Which is why movies today are absolutely horrible. Lack of female agency. Female characters like Mary and Miss Bailey have limited agency. What's that mean anyway? And are primarily defined by their relationships to male characters. They should read Ephesians 6. They should read Ephesians 6. I'll leave it there. That's just nitpicky and dumb. Mental health depiction, we kind of talked about that before. Treatment of George's mental health crisis might be viewed as simplistic and insensitive in modern standards, particularly as his suicidal ideation. But again, it's just to move the story along. They chose that to have the maximum amount of impact for the story. I mean, he could have just quit his job or gotten depressed or and become an alcoholic, whatever. But that wouldn't have been nearly as dramatic as trying to kill yourself. And I think that's what the movie was really trying to stress. And Frank Capra, who's the director, knew what he was doing. He knew the best way to get the impact is to do that because that's the ultimate uh, price you can pay for hurting yourself. So number two, of course, going to be racial stereotypes. Of course, although not overt, the film's error and setting reflect a lack of racial diversity and potential perpetuate stereotypes of the time. What if the town's all white? I mean, right now, America is 13% black, roughly. And by the way, it stayed that way for the past 40 years, primarily because black people disproportionately are killing themselves in the abortion clinics. So, but that's neither here nor there. But what if you're out in Pango Pango somewhere where there's nobody out there other than white people? Or what if you go somewhere like Hawaii where there's Hawaiians there, where there's no white people there either? It's not a problem if you go somewhere like that, or if you go to Nevada where there's Native Americans, or if you go somewhere else where there's Asians living primarily. But it's only because white people are there, it becomes a problem. So that's just, again, it's just not taking in consideration the reality of what they were. And they did mention that it was the air. It's what it was. And there was a woman in there who was black who actually helped to with the money at the end. So that was a character that was black in there as well. So, but there was only one I think of. And the last one, you'll love this one. Gender roles and sexism. The film portrays traditional gender roles where men are the primary breadwinners and women are homemakers. Mary's life appears to lack fulfillment outside of relationship with George. No, that's what this sentence here is a perfect example. Mary's life appears to lack fulfillment outside of her relationship with George. Not at all. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Do you know how many kids she has? I think 5 kids. Yeah, it's 5 kids. No, fulfillment isn't raising the next generation. Way more fulfilling than going to a 9-to-5 job. I'm sorry. And if you're on this call, listen to this, and you're a woman and you have a 9-to-5 job and you have kids, I'm not saying that's dishonorable. It's not, but it's no more honorable than a mother who decides to stay home with her children, or even without children. And so that right there is very disingenuous. It's very obtuse in its framing, and it's just ridiculous. The left cannot stand traditional values. They can't stand biblical framework when it comes to the family, when it comes to the hierarchy in terms of God, husband, wife, children. They can't go along with that because they don't see that the ultimate fulfillment is doing God's will. And it is what it is. And it's a sad thing to see. But again, this is coming from secular humanism, which is one of the reasons why I am totally against Kwanzaa, because it ties into that stuff too as well. But people have abortions. Do I believe? Why would I believe that? No one believes that. No one believes that. But what I do know, and this isn't what I believe, what is true, is that Black people have abortions at a percentage at a way high level. 13% of the population are aborting way higher percentage of their children than any other population. The Black population has been at 13% for the past 40 years. Every other population is pretty much going up. And Black people, for some reason, are not. And it's another interesting thing where Planned Parenthood and all these institutions happen to be in Black neighborhoods. And why is that? And why is also that the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, looked at lower class people as weeds that need to be exterminated. Her policy of eugenics was a policy of basically saying, if you're poor, then why don't we just get rid of you because you're going to be a benefit. You're going to be a hindering on society. You're going to have a bad life. You can be poor. So why even be alive? And so, and that all goes into, to me, partially why Democrats love Planned Parenthood. They've always been the party of segregation. They've always been the party of slavery and of not having defending freedom. And if you don't defend life at the core, that's the basic tenet of freedom: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Democrats have never been for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They've been for enslaving people, denigrating them, making them work for them. You work, I eat. And if you don't do it, then you stay on your plantation, whether it be in the South or in an agrarian standpoint, or be in a urban area such as, like, a urban ghetto, a population center, where they can control you through your vote, through emotionalism, by saying that Republicans are always going to be out to get you. They're racist. Vote for us at 90% clip so we can continue to stay in power and continue to oppress you and give you the money you need to just get by, so you can depend on us, so you can continue giving us your vote every single election cycle. That's what I think that whole thing is all about. But no, obviously Black people aren't the only ones that have abortions. Everyone has abortions of all walks of life. But like I said before, and I said this before in the actual statement, disproportionately. That's the key word, disproportionately. So let me go ahead and move on to the next question here and get to this. Next movie is actually going to be Home Alone, which I think is a really, really good movie. And it's really funny. And I think it's something that that I like to watch every year. There's some things in there that I don't like my kid to watch because the kid's got a little bit of attitude. He talks back to his mom. I don't like that part. But once you get past that, I think the movie's pretty on point. So here we have this is Home Alone. What are the top 10 things, in this case 8, in the movie Home Alone that would be considered not politically correct by 2023 standards? And we have top 8 answers here. I'll just go 8-1. The first one is going to be insensitive jokes and animal cruelty. Now, I don't really remember the animal cruelty. Says here, okay, the scene where Kevin uses Buzz's pet tarantula as a... You got to be kidding me. All right, here you guys. So the source for this one is thevideolibrarian.com. Write your own white privilege. Sorry, let me start over. Videolibrarian.com. The article is check your white privilege with Home Alone. Insider.com. 19 details you probably missed in Home Alone. And where are we at here? Okay. Cosmopolitan, 11 things about Home Alone that actually makes zero sense. Laughsin.com. Director Chris Columbus deliberately deletes. I can't see the rest of it, is cut off. RomeSentinel.com. 10 things you never knew about Home Alone. And Reddit, why is everyone such a prick to Kevin in Home Alone? So these are the sources for these particular top 8 countdown. Again, it says here, animal cruelty. The scene where Kevin uses Buzz's pet tarantula as a weapon could only be interpreted as animal cruelty. Never mind that he's being attacked by burglars who are trying to rob his house, flood his house, and possibly his own person. He's using it as a weapon. So what he should do, just let his house get robbed? Ridiculous. And the second thing here is insensitive jokes. Some of the jokes, particularly those involving the elderly, neighbor, or physical harm, might be considered insensitive by modern standards. No, only by your woke standards. That's ridiculous. Let's see here. And let me see. I gotta answer this question here. Again, this goes back to what conservative is, and just like, okay, so just like what we talked about, I think in the last live stream when I talked about what conservatism is. To say that, it means you have no understanding of what conservatism is when it talks about here about American culture. And conservatism in America is different than anywhere else in the world, because America was founded based on the principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was based on the principles that our rights come from God, not from man, not from government, not from someone that can take it from you, but from God. It cannot be taken from you, period. So if God gives you these rights that are they're in the Bill of Rights, but go beyond that because they're limited, then to your point here, you say the people who believed in keeping black people in the ghetto were absolutely conservative. No, they were absolutely liberal because they were not giving them the ability to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They were obstructing their rights. The whole purpose of redlining that came from FDR. That was a Democrat. That was a leftist Marxist. Let's look at the crime bill. That would be Joe Biden. That hurt blacks. Let's look at the war on poverty, LBJ, where they incentivize essentially, oh yeah, the man doesn't have to be in the house. Get the man out of the house and let the woman have some more babies and we'll throw some money at him. So no, that perpetual systemic racism was done by Democrats who were leftists by definition because they were not allowing them to exercise their God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's why they weren't conservative. Now, if you go to England, conservative means something different. Conservative means they're going to conserve their principles, their founding principles, which was a king, a monarchy. You go somewhere else. It was other country. It was a bureaucracy. It was a class, a family. It was a church. This country was the first country in the history of mankind that was formed out of the basis that individual rights come from God. The Magna Carta kind of set it up hundreds of years earlier, but that wasn't the same thing. That was dealing with a bureaucracy class, whatever. But that was the first time with the Magna Carta was when people said, you know what, we can push back on the king. And I think that was King Charles. Maybe I was wrong on that, but King John. I think it was King John. He agreed to that. And then next thing you know, it kind of fell apart. But that was the first inkling. And from that point on, the founding fathers looked back at that, people like John Locke and whatnot, and they started to see that and started formulating these ideas. And that's where this country came from. So no, the people who kept people in the ghetto were not conservative just by definition. You can't find anything on that at all. And if they were, let's say they were Republicans doing it, they weren't conservative. Just like the rhinos we have here, the rhinos we have right now, they are Republicans, but they're not conservative. So you'd be better off saying that it's Republicans did it, possibly. Republicans are doing some jacked up stuff today. Most Republicans today, outside of the MAGA umbrella or coalition, are not doing what's right for the American people. They are acting just like Democrats, just like liberals. So I would push back. If you want to change it to Republican, did it? Well, maybe so. I don't know. I mean, but they were not conservative in their actions. That's why I'll go with that, because by definition, I gotta go by definition. Let's keep going here. Number 7 here, consumerism. This is for Home Alone. The film's focus on material possessions and wealth, such as the McAllister's house and lifestyle, might be criticized for promoting commercialism. It's capitalism. I mean, so if I work hard for what I do, I provide a service or good, someone wants to buy that good or service, and I get a profit from that. I get to feed my family, provide for my family. I get to extend that wealth onto my kids and hopefully on to my next kids. That right there is just what it is. It is what it is. Socialism is honed on to envy, looking at someone else and coveting what they have. And that's what the Bible says. Thou shalt not covet. Greed and envy is what's driving Marxism. That's what drives all that stuff. And so, whoever had that house and everything in there, I'm assuming he was a legal I don't think it's a drug dealer. I'm sure he had a job that was legal. Then that is what it is. And it's all relative because his house may be small compared to someone like a LeBron James. You know what I mean? My house may be considered huge compared to a person somewhere in the bush somewhere who has a hut, right? But are they happier than I am? I would dare say many of them are happier than we are, even though they have less materialistically. So, if you frame things in a biblical framework, things really things shake out. They absolutely shake out because you can't take any of this stuff with you. Number 6 here, I have the portrayal of police and bullying and verbal abuse. Let's start with the portrayal of the police. The film's portrayal of police officers, particularly their response to the crisis, could be seen as ineffective or unprofessional. Okay, whatever. The other one is bullying or verbal abuse. Kevin is often bullied and verbally abused by his siblings and even some adults, which is presented in a comedic context. Well, it is what it is. And you know what it is? I wouldn't say that's a good thing, but at the end of the day, Kevin got through it. We got bullied all the time growing up, and we just had to deal with it. We had to cope. And I think kids nowadays don't have the ability to cope. And if you don't see reality on air and how people can get through it, if you sanitize everything, then you're going to think that you're a unicorn, that you're the only person that gets bullied because you don't see anywhere else because it's been omitted from all of our literature, all of our movies. And now what do you do now? You have no way to cope. You can't point to how Kevin in the movie coped with it. You can't point to that, which is why, again, these characters have to have flaws that we have to be able to overcome or challenges that we can overcome. And that is why these movies endear themselves to us, because we see ourselves in these characters. And in doing so, they overcome it. And we realize, you know what, maybe we can overcome it as well. And that's why the woke movies will never be any good, because they always skirt the underlying condition, and that is the human condition. And they want to do something, put something there that is not there, that has not been put there by God in us. And so internally, it doesn't make sense to us. And we know that, which is why we don't like watching these movies, because they're garbage. As you can imagine, the 5th one is going to be gender roles. I mean, it's like a revolving door here. The portrayal of Kevin's mother as the primary caretaker and his father as somewhat detached might be seen as reinforcing traditional gender roles. I'm gonna skip that one. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Number 4 is lack of diverse representation. Again, going back to It's a Wonderful Life. What if neighborhood's all white? I mean, what if black people don't want to move there? I mean, you assume black people want to live around you guys. I don't care, but you're saying because you don't see any black people in this particular movie, which, by the way, he's in a store. Okay, he's in a store shopping, and then he's at home. That's it. Where else is he? Where else do you see Kevin in that movie? Oh, at church. Okay, in the middle of the night, right before, and no one's in the church. So, again, maybe Kevin should have taken a stroll through the hood. Maybe then maybe they would have been happy then. Maybe they would have seen some diversity there. Who knows? Absolutely ridiculous. Violence as comedy, that's dumb. That's slapstick. That's been going on for years. Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, to a lesser extent. Buster Keaton. Look, these guys have no idea about movies, and there's no way in the world that, let's say it again. Screen Rant, IDMB, Core, these guys have no idea anything about movies, how to make them, which is why Disney's going broke, which is why the last 11 films have totally tanked. They lost over $1 billion in the last 11 films together. The only film that even come close to making money was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And Disney is about to get sold, and they're about to go under. and it's as weird as that sounds, that's a strong possibility. Wall Street Journal's talking about it. New York Times it has an article about it. Deadline, even the woke shill trade books are talking about how bad Disney is doing it, and mainly it's because of this right here, this kind of nonsense they're putting in the movies. All right, let's keep going here. Number 2 is the stereotyping of burglars. Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. It says Marv and Harry are portrayed in a way that reinforces stereotypes about criminals being clumsy and unintelligent. It's a comedy. Oh my gosh. So yes, what we're just saying is, let's make a movie of super sophisticated burglars who get around everything and then kidnap Kevin and then flood the house and get away and get all the money, and Kevin never sees his mom ever again because they were sophisticated burglars. All right. Number 1, child neglect. It's called Home Alone. Yeah, it would have been a really short movie. It would have been a really short movie if they had actually found him in the attic and been like, okay, okay, well, I guess the movie's over. It's like a 5-minute movie. It says here the central premise of the film, where Kevin is left home alone, might be seen as a severe case of child neglect, highlighting a lack of responsible parenting. Again, that's true. However, did mom leave him there? Say, oh well, Kevin, you can just chill. I'm sure you'll be fine. Whatever. No, she did whatever she could do to get back to see her child, and that's the point of the film. Just like in Die Hard, he wanted to be with his wife. She wanted to be back to her son as soon as possible. She made a mistake. She overcame her obstacle, her fault. Both of them overcame their faults, and that's why the movie rocks. And that's why movies today are garbage, because of this. I am done. So enough of that. So guys, yeah. So we've been going for about an hour 16 minutes here. Let me go through some of these questions here. I'm pretty sure that there's some more comments here because I may have struck a nerve there. But look, I don't say anything that I don't have a sound basis for. If I don't know it, I'm going to say I don't know it. If I think I know it, I'm going to tell you why I know it. That way you can kind of go through my line of reasoning. But again, conservatism in America is different than anywhere else in the world. Point to me a country anywhere that's ever been founded that base their rights of their citizens on the notion that you get your rights from God and no one else. Let's go through these. We're all about breaking the narrative, so I'll go through one at a time. America was founded on white people being the first class and other people being the lesser class. Nope, that's false. That's absolutely false. What you could say is that white people, it was actually white men with property and power benefit themselves, but at the same time, they put in place their own demise, right? They said in there, all men are created equal. They put in their amendments, and they actually were going to end slavery initially. There was an initial clause in the Declaration of Independence to do that, but it didn't happen because they want a unanimous block to make a statement. They didn't want South Carolina to go away. They want to keep them in balance, and South Carolina felt they needed slavery to keep it going. So what you could say here is that it was founded by white men with property and power, which it was, but not all of them had money. Not all of them had property. A lot of them did, but some of them were really broke. John Hancock had to borrow money just to get a suit, just to show up in the at the signing. There were many people in the founding fathers who didn't have any money whatsoever. And so, in fact, this is a good segue. So if you guys come check this out, we're giving the That's the statue. This is a monument of the forefathers. It doesn't show good on green screen, but this is a statue here that I got that represents the landing of Plymouth Rock. It's a monument that was erected in 1889, and it was a monument to the founding fathers. It says here, by grateful people in remembrance for their labors and sacrifices and sufferings for the cause of civil and religious liberty. And what I'm looking at here is this statue, which was put in place right there at Plymouth Rock, where the Pilgrims landed, to show us what we need to do to get back to where this country was founded on. And so I'm giving a class in February. It's called the Biblical Citizenship in Modern America. It's through Patriot Academy, through David Barton, through Jeff Barton. And so it's going to be an 8-week class. It's free. It's a virtual. You get a textbook and all of that. We go through the founding principles of everything. And we basically show you not opinion. There is no opinion because David Barton actually has the actual source documents. He has the largest private library anywhere in the world of pre 1776 documentation leading up to the Revolutionary War. So we can see for ourselves what the original intent was, what the writers and the framers of the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Federalist Papers, and all that, what they meant. And so these narratives that come out, oh, well, just white people just killed here. Well, white people did it, then why didn't they make it so that it's only white people? Why didn't they just say, okay, only white people with property and money can do anything in this country? They didn't do that. That's what they do in other countries. That's what they did. That's what King James did. That's what King James did in England. He said, I have a divine right to rule. I talk to God. He tells me what to do. You guys listen, or you go to jail, or worse. That was England. Why didn't the white guys who are so oppressive, why didn't they say, hey, we are the end all be all. You do nothing. There's no voting. There's no checks and balances. There's no Supreme Court. No, they didn't do that. They put in place a framework in which they would themselves lose power over time because it would be broadened in those freedoms. They knew for a fact that slavery one day would go away. They just knew it wasn't going to be today. And you can blame them for not doing it, but then you also wouldn't have had America. You would have had a split nation. Who knows what you would have had? The Civil War probably never would have happened, but the Civil War itself happened because the Revolutionary War happened, because they were able to keep it together. That when the Civil War came around 80 years later, they were like, okay, this union must be held together. And that was the main purpose and principle behind the Civil War for the North, the motivation to keep the union together, because if America goes down, the entire world goes down. And that's why the fervor for the union and union cause was so strong initially. The South's motivation was different, but the North's motivation was union. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand the Civil War, nor do you understand the principles of the Revolutionary War. So I can go on and on, that kind of stuff. But are they citizens now? Are they citizens now? They are. So that's the whole point. They could have put it in law that blacks never will get citizenship ever. Conservatives did this. Okay, again, you don't know. Give me your definition of conservative. Again, you didn't hear one word I said, so we're gonna keep going. People who love the movie are going to help that generation. I am. Okay. Of course. What's your point? I don't know what your point. I have no idea what your point is. Come on, man. Dred Scott decision tells you. Oh yeah, by Democrats, by the way. And Democrats who were not being conservative, they were very much liberal, because they were saying that you don't have the right to be a free man as a black person. And if you look at that Dred Scott decision, I bet you didn't look at it. 5 of those guys on that Supreme Court were nominated by Andrew Jackson, the founder of the Democrat Party. And the 3 that abstained were actually Republicans, or later became Republicans, because the Republican Party hadn't really been founded yet. They're about to become up. They later became Republicans. And the other 2, the thing was like a 7. It was like a 3. No, it was a 2-9 decision somewhere in there. But the other 2, or the 4, were from other. Either they were Whig appointees or they were another Democrat appointee. So and you're looking at the consequences. You're looking at the results. I'm telling you what those results are. Those are not conservatives. Those are liberals. They are leftists. They are, because by definition, they're not conserving the principles of the founding fathers. Now you may say, well, blacks weren't free. Yeah, slavery was still in place. Duh. But are they free now? Yes, we are, which means that they put something in place that they could become free. They were flawed men and understood the Bible. And by the way, you mentioned the Constitution wasn't written by God. Well, it pretty much in some ways was, because the Constitution was nothing more than a series of lectures and sermons that was put out in the pulpits 100 years prior by the founding fathers. Again, if you come to this class, Biblical Citizenship in Modern America, all these questions will be answered for you. You have the actual documentation and the actual source material there for you to see for yourself. Let me see what else here. How many people want to vote? But yeah, we already covered that. But they can now. They put in place a system where they could down the line do so. If they were really that racist and really hated black people that much, they could have said black people would never, ever become free. Unlike the Democrats in the Confederacy. You want to look at the Articles of Confederacy, because we had the Constitution, right? So we had that going on. Well, the South, the 11 states of the Confederacy, had their own Constitution. In that, they emphatically said that black people will be slaves, period. Those were your Democrats. Those were your Democrats, man. So I mean, the history is just not on your side, nor is the documentation on your side. You can have narratives all you want, but it's not going to hold. It's not going to hold weight at all. In fact, just give me some documentation, put it in here, give me some source material, and we can talk about it. Why would the world go down if the USA went down? Well, that was their thought. Their thought was that because they felt that the only country that's ever been formed in history of mankind that based individual rights on the doctrine that God gives you those rights was America. So America goes away. Where else would they have gone to go somewhere to do what they can do in America? I mean, where? I mean, if you look at World War II, what happens if America is not around? What happens if America is not around when Hitler's making his march against Poland and France and all that, when they were militarizing left and right? What would happen in World War I to Europe if America hadn't been around? If they didn't have the doughboys getting up, getting ready, and galvanizing and putting together, who would have put down the Japanese Empire? Who would have helped stop communism all through Southeast Asia, in Vietnam and Korea? I'm saying America's perfect, but the principles of the Constitution are based, again, on the Bible. It's based on individual liberties and rights. Now, of course, we've lost a lot of that because rhinos, Republicans and name only, and Democrats and leftists and wokeists and everybody else and people who just don't have any common sense want to go back into some sort of archaic Marxist society where you basically are a drone. You do what you're told. You sit in your little cubicle of your life, and then you basically give all your money to the government, and they oppress you, and you have nothing to say for your life. That's the alternative. That's the alternative. Why is it that America is the most prosperous country in the history of mankind? Where did that come from? Why was it that when the Pilgrims in the first winter of their being here in America. Why is it they almost starved to death? Why did the Pilgrims almost starve to death the first time out? Why? Because they implemented something called socialism. Say, hey, guys, hey, let's go ahead and let's take all of our wheat, our grain, our corn, our bale, our barley, and we'll put it into the storehouses. And you guys just go and grab what you want. No big deal. We'll share alike. Guess what happened? The people who were lazy grabbed all the corn, grabbed all the barley, grabbed all the rice, and people who were working didn't get anything. And there was no incentive to do anymore because why work when the lazy guy over here is going to get all the stuff? So no one produced anything. And they almost starved to death. So what happened the next summer? What happened then? They said, you know what, guys? We're going to give you some property, some land. You do what you want with this land. I don't care what you want. You can grow what you want there, but whatever you grow there, you can sell it, you can eat, you can burn it. We don't care. But if you decide to sell it, you can get money to get more products, to do more things, to maybe buy more land. And that system is called the hidden hand, I believe, of economics. I think Adam Smith, I believe, made this country the most prosperous country in the history of the world. It was through that. And those principles come straight out of the Bible. If you don't work, you don't eat. You don't help anybody if you just let them sit on their butts and do nothing and feed them. All you're doing is enabling them. And that's what America is not about. And so we look at it and say, well, how come this guy here, he has no money, whatever. Well, why isn't he doing anything to change himself? Right? Why is that? And so that is the whole thing. And so the question here, why would America go down? It just goes to what I said before. Let me see. I'm back in talking about okay, whatever. Okay. Now you're rambling, you're talking. Okay. All right. So I'm rambling, but you asked me this question right here. You asked me this, and I'm rambling about the founding of America. You asked me this, and I'll talk about the founding of America. So should I answer the question or not? Or maybe I'm answering the question to the point where it's just too good, or you just don't understand, or have a good retort to what I'm saying. I'm not rambling. You asked me, let's go again. You asked me this, why would the world go down if the U.S. went down? Now you're mad because I'm saying I am talking about the founding of America. Does anyone else get this but me? All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, fine. Thank you for your service, if that's actually true. But I think a lot of people do. They worship their skin color. Their skin color is a god. And it's to get rid of that god is painful because you can look at yourself as a victim. You can look at yourself as this, and you say, "Well, my life would have been great if I wasn't this." But if you get rid of that skin color, that goes away. And so people worship skin color. They worship other things too about themselves, and they use it as a blanket, a security blanket, and a weapon in many ways to get over on people, either through guilt or whatever. And so there is that. So, is America perfect? No, it's not. But the foundation of it is as good as any could have possibly made it. The checks and balances in place, dealing with the states versus the federal government, limited government. And the point of the federal government is to protect our rights. That's it. Our rights come from God. They can't take it from us. So the government's job is to make sure that our rights are not violated. That's it, guys. I've gone a while here. Leave more questions here. Send me emails at info@theconservativetake.com, and I will get back to those, respond to those, or comment on some more videos. Any comments that happen here after this, I will answer those questions. I'll put them probably on the community chat. We can talk about the discussion there. As far as Christmas is concerned, guys, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. I hope that you guys have a very, very meaningful, good time with your families. And that's really what it comes down to. Christmas to me is about being with family. It's about celebrating that and remembering those who are maybe no longer here, because Christmas can be a very sad time for many people. And I think we should look out and reach out to those who may be struggling through this time, because Christmas isn't happy-go-lucky for everybody, because everybody has everybody. So be mindful of that. Be good to one another. And guys, I will see you in the next video. We're probably doing a live stream tomorrow morning on Rumble. The Kyle Suggs Show. We'll do that exclusively on Rumble. I'll probably talk more about this there in more detail, because this is a good question. I mean, I think with this, for me personally, is that people just to understand the framework in which the country was founded. And to understand that, you have to have a biblical framework, which the founders had. The founders were men of God. They were not deists who thought God would just start the world and just left it. No, they weren't all evangelical Christians, but most of them, the majority of them, were Christians who believed that God had an active role in our lives, and that for life to work properly, the way to do that is to have a framework in which the Bible is paramount. And the Bible talks about that we are made in the image of God. And if we're made in the image of God, that means that God is in control of our destinies and control of our lives. He gives us our rights. And if that's the case, let's build a government around that principle. They believed that God breathed life into mankind and that we are made in the image of God. And therefore, we are going to form a government that is surrounded in that principle. And that principle is embodied in the Bible. And so through those principles, they literally formed the principles of everything we have in our Constitution and for most part in our Declaration of Independence. I'll give you a perfect example. The no unlawful search procedures, or the having there's the principle where there's no quartering of soldiers in your home, whereas it was a practice that the British had where it would come to your house and they would just open the door and live there at your house. Well, James Otis II actually came up with a concept called a man's house is castle. And that came out a few years prior to 1776. John Adams was in the crowd when he was giving that particular speech. And that was the key principle that John Adams himself said, this is why we are going to revolt. Because at its core, your house is your castle, and no one has the right to come into that. I mentioned this on a live stream before. As an example, if I have a neighbor, his name is John. He lives across the street. We have a block party. He owes me $5. Everybody at the block sees this. John says, hey, Kyle, I owe you $5. Here's $5. I'm going to leave $5 in a glass jar with your name on it in my house, on my dresser, by my front door, right over the threshold. Okay. Everyone hears this. And so one day I go by, doors wide open, money's out on the threshold right inside the house. My name's on the jar. $5 are in it. But John is nowhere to be seen. By James Otis's concept and paradigm, I do not have the right to go into his house to get that $5. Period. I do not. Because he never gave me that right. He never gave me that. He never told me I could do it. He just said, I owe you this to you, and this is what I'm going to do. And it's that core principle which this whole country is founded on. The fact that I can defend my house against invaders, people coming in trying to steal, rob, whatever. And that's where the Second Amendment comes in, because you have to have something to be able to defend yourself with. But once you have a secure home, which, by the way, has walls and a ceiling, right? Once you have that, then you can have strong communities, which each one of those people have the same rights for their own homes. And that ends up being your counties, your states, and your country. That's the core nucleus of this country. And it's all founded on the biblical principle that property is the ownership of the owner. And what Marxism says, leftists don't want private property. No private property. That's Karl Marx. That's anti-God. That's satanic. It's wrong. And that's why America and the countries that reject that are on a better path to better living than socialism, which has killed over 100 million people over the last century. So with that, guys, I'm going to drop off here. God bless everybody. Have a Merry Christmas. And I will see you guys in the next one.